Tell me about your top principle.
So for me, I've always been a bit of a theorizer, a bit of a over planner.
Keep it all in your head.
Keep it all inside and try and find the best way forward. I think it's a bit of a perfectionism trait coming out.
Yeah.
So for me, the biggest one that I'm really trying to work on, and I think is more broadly certainly from this year, is a bit more of an action bias.
Love it.
And this is something that we've seen across certainly all of the books I think that we've touched on.
Yeah.
Every single one of these people appears to have that action bias. It's not to say that they don't go out and do any planning, but they put themselves out there. They take the step forward. They don't overthink it. They don't plan every single variable.
They learn by doing. Yeah. So how have you done that?
So for a start, planning less.
Oh.
And just starting to put one foot in front of the other on particular things.
Have you found that mentally difficult?
Super challenging.
Yeah.
Now there's some spaces that I haven't been able to do it in too well yet, and maybe don't need to. So that might be, what's the best tool to do this, because it doesn't take a lot of time to do it.
Yep.
Or an app or something like that.
So you mean like looking into, hey, what's the best software out there, or what's the best Bluetooth speaker or something? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in the space of, say, writing. So I'm trying to do a lot more writing.
Yeah.
And I could go out there and read Bird by Anne Lamott and all these various books and how to write a book or how to write a blog, or there's tons of things out there on writing. And doing a bit of reading actually helps the writing in itself, but just writing, just doing lots more writing and putting some effort and intention into that writing, I think has been great. And you notice improvement, or at least I feel like I've got a little bit more coherence in things that I write now.
I'm sure you do.
And so the big one for me out of that was Nassim Taleb, and he's probably had a mention in every single other episode so far, so why not this one?
That's it.
His idea around the target and just shooting towards the target. And actually,
what's that?
Yeah, so it's this idea that shooting towards the target and being slightly off and then shooting again, you're going to gradually find your way, rather than sitting there and trying to aim, get the right trajectory, the right pullback on the bow, say, for example, while we're using the targeted analogy, the right height, what's the wind doing, what's the air coefficient,
get your feedback loop going, yeah.
And all that stuff, just start doing. And he's actually proved this, I believe, mathematically in complex systems, which is far beyond my understanding of
it's cool.
anything. So, and then obviously we look at Mr. Chenard from Let My People Go Surfing, and his idea of, he just wanted to make some rock climbing gear. And as part of doing that, he was just doing it for himself, and he started doing it.
Little paraphernalia on right now.
I'm actually representing them right now. There you go.
I think I'm going to the shop tomorrow to get some gear for my upcoming trip. So
I like it, mate.
It's good.
Supporting the earth.
Supporting Chenard.
And then there's a book that I'm going to read and that we'll definitely do on an upcoming episode, which is Can't Hurt Me by Dave Goggins. And so this is a guy that's basically, he just goes into something and sees what happens. And he's fallen over time and time and time and time again. And he gets up, goes again, gets up, goes again, gets up, goes again. For those of you who follow his Instagram account, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Pretty motivational guy. But that's how he got to some of the positions that he's been able to achieve, and now the fame, I guess, that he's attracted to himself.
Which book would you pick out of the first 10 episodes as having the most influence on you?
I read this, now when I originally read this was quite a long time ago, which was Principles, Ray Dalio. I bought it when it first came out in 2017. Tail end of 2017, I think that's when it was. And I pretty much picked it up straight away and read it straight away. Mind you, it took me quite a while to get through it. I would just say, first of all, the benchmark that he has set, and maybe again, he might also be a ceiling, similar to what we were talking about with Goggins, in terms of his hurt locker zone, let's call it that. In terms of Dalio's principles zone, I think he maybe has set a ceiling in terms of how far you can take this. But there's a lot of good that can come from it. And so I think just looking at things in a bit more of a systematic, structured way, and I do get told time to time that I'm quite systematic and structured as it is.
Well, it probably appeals to us because we're engineers anyway.
It's a very engineering way of thinking.
Yeah.
You know, this first and then this and then this.
Yeah. Pain plus reflection equals progress. Finally, a formula for life.
I've worked out the answer.
Yeah.
And so that for me has been great. And it, you know, not just the active principles, but there's some great principles themselves within that book.
And the bit on his biography is cool too in that book.
Yeah, it's a great little rags to riches story almost.
Yeah.
You?
For me, it's the Black Swan. And not just that, but I've now through 2 of his other books in the Incerto series, and I've got 2 to go. But the whole thing just totally changed my perspective on the world and let me understand the world better. And the themes that run through those books weave their way through everything else, I reckon. You can find them in all 10 books. The complex, how to act in a complex situation and non-complex, things that happen out of the blue, you know, and just how to deal with the different types of scenarios you meet in the world. I think it weaves through everything. I don't find him that necessarily, his writing is a bit hard to stomach sometimes, but he's just like, his ideas are so good that it doesn't matter.
So I love the way he writes. I don't like the way he gives a speech. I think
he's belligerent.
I think it comes off in the way there's a combative piece that sometimes pulls you back. But I love he pulls in like these random stories or random people or personas, or and quite often there's a real translation to them.
I love that Nero and Fat Tony and everything. And talking about weaving through the episodes, I think that Principles and the Black Swan, they all weave through most of the other stuff we've talked about, like the Naval episode, Let My People Go Surfing, particularly Range and Giro work through the complex and the non-complex and kind of how to deal with those 2 type of situations.
Yeah, well, you're looking at like Range is down one end of the scale and Giro's at the other end of the scale in terms of this mastery space.
Yeah.
Right? But they've kind of come to the same place because the Range, when you're operating across all these, you've built up to this many different domains of thinking and looking at the world, you realize how complex it is. And then you go into Giro's space, and because he's gotten to such fine detail and nuance around how he does things, he's in a complex world himself, right? They're different environments.
Yeah.
They're different ecosystems. Don't get me wrong. One's what you could probably call a harsh operating environment, and one's kind of a safer operating environment, much closer to playing a game. There's more, there's less variables.
Maybe closed or open.
Yeah.
Making sushi every day is more closed, more like playing chess, more repeatable. The Range is the random environment.
Yes. And I think pulling those 2 together, there's a lot of similarities.
Yeah, and regardless, iterative learning is important, but how much weight you put on different things in different environments is important. So the iterative learning in Giro, you're going to be able to repeat that over and over and over again for the skills that he's learning and hone in further. For Range, it's more about you need to be iterative but ready, more open for things to change rapidly.
Part of our monthly check-ins that we're doing, keep each other accountable. We've actually picked up something new that's very common this year, something we're both going to do, not lying. This has been tough.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that I don't feel like I'm a dishonest person.
Does anyone?
I think some people are intentionally dishonest because it's a way to sometimes get what you want.
I think everyone's intentionally dishonest.
Yeah, agreed, actually. Yep.
To certain degrees. Yes. There's malicious
That's what I was talking about. So there's certainly people that set out to just, how can we get this the shortest, quickest way and burn the most things in our path? You know?
Yeah. It seems that you can find a way to justify most things, though.
That's true. But telling someone that, you know, yes, you'll receive the money tomorrow.
You know you're lying then, don't you?
Yeah. You know, let's be realistic here.
But there's the lying you're doing that you don't realise.
Yeah, and so that's been the challenge, is the lying that's done from a, you know, to protect yourself or
an avoidance
mechanism.
Yeah.
There's also the lying of, you know, intentionally leaving out details to cover up things or to not let them out. And it's not to say that we're going out of our way to just be totally transparent and be blunt and tell everyone how things are.
You need a filter.
Yeah, there's still a filter applied, but it's trying to make an intention to be more honest and catching yourself. And I've caught myself quite a few times going to tell a bit of a furdy.
What? A furphy?
Furdy, not a beer.
No, isn't it a furphy?
No, that's a beer.
No.
Mate.
No, we're checking that afterwards because it's
Fact
definitely
check.
a furphy.
I might have been lied to my whole
There's some honesty.
my whole childhood.
Yeah, it is tough though. It's something that's in 12 Rules for Life. This is one of his things.
Haven't read it.
Don't lie.
Don't lie.
Yeah.
Well, but there's like another layer of not just other people, but it's lying to yourself.
That's hard. That's where we're getting into psychology.
Where you over-rationalize a situation or something. You know, you can rationalize anything, which I think you were saying before, but what's the reality? And kind of leaning into that and facing into that. Have I genuinely stuffed up here?
Yeah. It's helped my self-esteem, actually, not lying, I think. But I still catch myself lying.
Have you had some tough encounters in a situation where you wouldn't, where you'd normally not lie? Or sorry, where you'd normally lie?
I've made it harder for myself in situations by telling the truth this year, but I wouldn't say I've yet got to the point where I'm confronting everything I should. So working on it.
Love
but
it,
it's
mate.
more that avoidance thing, I think. So